Welcome to the first full day of spring, where it should be blooming flowers and growing lawns. But of course, remnants of winter may have other ideas, with more snow coming, and of course, when the elements get into a fight, more severe weather. We'll have all the details on a very active weather pattern coming your way next. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Weather Nerds YouTube channel. I'm your host, Greg Majeski, your personal weatherman, making a difference one subscriber at a time. And before we get going, if you like what you see with this report, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and leave me a comment down below. I do appreciate the feedback because this service is for you. All right, we got some active weather going on. Let's go ahead and take a look at the current conditions. We're going to zoom in here on the water vapor imagery, and we've still got the cold air kind of settling up across the northeast. The remnants of that cutoff low, it's pulling in some moisture in across Mexico and across Texas. We're going to see the rains expanding there in the days ahead. And we've also got another cold shot bringing in some snows across areas of the Dakotas and going into Minnesota as we wrap up the work week. Now, of course, we're talking about also the chance for severe weather for next week as we got a little bit of a pattern shift and a big change in the jet stream coming our way. So let's go take a look at the latest models. Let's get to it. We're first going to take a look at the jet stream. That's at river air, about 30,000 feet. I like starting out with the jet stream because you're looking for the pattern. You're looking for those troughs and ridges and where those big storm systems are going to develop. And this model is going to take us straight out to the last day of March and heading in toward Easter weekend. So we get out of the way here is we're going to see a piece of energy here is diving off the California coast here. It's going to invigorate the jet stream here toward the south. So we're talking about right about in here. And that's going to be the start of the pattern shift as we go into this upcoming weekend. So let's go ahead and take this forward in the time as we watch the evolution there. The timestamp there in your top left-hand corner is wrapping up Thursday. You're seeing this jet stream begin to get more invigorated as we go into the upcoming weekend, okay, as the pattern begins to shift here. As you kind of watch that bottom end of that trough, you're seeing it start to really get invigorated right through here. And that is going to allow this big trough to set up and gets into a position where we, again, could be looking at some very active weather as we head into next week. The one difference from previous runs that I've been seeing here is it looks like this is going to push off a little bit further toward the east as we go late in the day on Monday. Again, you got a jet stream that's splitting in here. Again, that's to help evacuate the air and kind of wind shear effect there for thunderstorms. And this will begin to push off toward the east. So this big trough is going to push through the eastern third of the United States. That's going to tap some cold air. It's going to kind of come in behind the storm system here with that cold air settling in. And it looks like there's going to be another, even a little shot right along that jet stream that'll take it straight into the last day of March. So what that means for going into Easter weekend, looks like the eastern third of the United States is going to be a little bit on the nippy side. Again, you got that big trough in the east, and we got that high pressure ridging kind of setting up there across portions of Nevada and Utah. So you got a ridge right there, trough in the east, and looks like we're in store for a little bit of a stormy pattern there for the Pacific Northwest with low off the coast there as we wrap up this model run. Well, this next big storm system really shows up nicely on the 500 millibar height anomaly map. Now, what that is when you see the blues, that's where the air is colder than usual above. That allows that calm air to rise very easily when you want to get clouds and storms develop. When it's warmer above, you're not going to get that. That's what the reds are there. So we're watching this piece of energy off the California coast. You're going to watch the evolution of this as it's going to get stronger as we head into the upcoming weekend. So as it begins to move in on the California coast, going into the day on Saturday morning, it's going to get more invigorated. Got a little weak disturbance there across the southeast. That's what's going to be bringing in the rains going into Friday and Saturday across the southeast with that little piece of energy there exiting the Florida coast. But look how big this thing gets out on the west. So this is a very vigorous looking system. A lot of energy in with this as it's beginning to slide in as we go into Monday afternoon. Now, beyond Monday afternoon, it's still showing that trend of weakening. You'll notice this as you notice it starts to kind of loses punch a little bit there. It kind of breaks down a bit, but a big trough kind of sets up across the eastern third as we see high pressure exiting up toward New England. And one thing I can identify here is after that big storm system, we still have a couple of minor ones here that'll be coming in as we head toward the end of the following week. So we're talking about the 27th going into the 28th. Got a little weak system there coming in across the southeast. And then we have another piece of energy back over toward Wyoming. That one will continue to dive down into the southeast, kind of reinforcing shot of some of that cool air kind of coming in across the eastern third of the United States as we've got that trough and cool air setting up across the east. So we're coming in closer here to the continental United States. We're going to drop down to 850 millibars. That's 5,000 feet. And I like to use the 850 millibar level because it kind of excludes the daytime natural heating that occurs there. So you don't get those kind of fluctuations, and you can track that colder, milder air better, especially when we're looking at the clash of the air masses going into next week's storm system. So let me go ahead and get out of here as we go ahead and watch this cold air that's really going to be settling in across areas of New England for heading into Thursday morning. It's going to be quite nippy, to say the least, and it's really not going to go anywhere. So really going to stay kind of chilly up that way. And it looks like we're going to see that cold air just kind of hang from Montana coming back over to Wisconsin and over to New England. And then we got a little disturbance there riding into Friday that's going to help kind of bring down a reinforcing shot of some colder air, again, going mostly into New England as we go into Saturday and into Sunday. You kind of see it settling in there once again. And then we're going to watch this next developing storm system calling into Colorado. You're going to see it start to pull down some of that colder air behind the system there, and we're going to see milder air push out ahead of it. So as we go throughout the day on Monday and going into Tuesday, that's when we're expecting the thunderstorms to erupt. Now, I will say this compared to, say, the last severe weather run, I'm not overly concerned with the Cape. That's that instability factor. The dynamics are definitely there to support severe weather. I think you can see that regardless of whether you have a lot of Cape or not. But it looks like a lot of that heat energy is going to be confined mostly down to the south, say from Arkansas down into Louisiana with this storm system. So we'll get a squall line here, but as we go and that low begins to pull off toward the north throughout the day on Tuesday, any storms progressing across the southeast will probably weaken. There's still potential for some isolated severe there, but looks like things will begin to improve. And as I said in my earlier report, I'm not expecting any severe weather into Wednesday. We have another little weak system now slide to the southeast going into Thursday and Friday, bringing us some rain there. But generally going into the upcoming Easter weekend, we're going to see cooler temperatures across the east, and it'll be milder out in the west, especially the southwest, confluence of the high pressure ridge that'll be sitting up across the western third of the United States. So as we go ahead and wrap up the work week here, we'll be tracking a couple of minor systems here. One that'll be pulling out of Mexico and Texas that'll be bringing rains into the southeast, and a bit of energy here up across the north that'll be bringing some snows going into the Dakotas and into Minnesota as we go into Friday. So let's go ahead and take this forward once again. As you can see how things begin to evolve, you see the rains there erupting and maybe some rumbles of thunder along the Texas Gulf Coast as we go in throughout the day on Thursday. You see the snows kind of spreading there across portions of North Dakota and Montana into your Thursday as well, as the snow will continue to drift off toward the east as we go overnight Thursday and into Friday morning, and rains will be increasing across areas of the Florida Peninsula, still lagging some rains back around Texas and Louisiana. That'll continue to build across the southeast throughout the day on Friday. Definitely a wet and rainy afternoon for places like Montgomery, Atlanta, and down toward the Florida Panhandle. Some very heavy rains down across southern Florida, as it's just going to be a wet and rainy Friday. And it looks like that will linger a little bit going into early Saturday morning before things begin to change there. Notice some snows also that were over into the Great Lakes will slide into portions of the New England area going overnight Friday and into Saturday morning. Then we're watching that storm system out on the west coast. Don't want to forget our friends in California getting some snows across the Sierra Nevada as that piece of energy begins to move on in. That is the evolution of our next storm system, as some of that energy begins to pull on in that allow for the development of that new low pressure system Now, before then, we do have some snows that are going to erupt across the portions of Montana and Idaho again throughout the day on Saturday. That'll kind of be out ahead of the main system there. So you see the snows spreading out ahead, going into Montana and into the Dakotas as we wait for that energy to kind of wrap around the bottom end of that trough and allow that low pressure to begin to strengthen as it drops to 982 millibars there right along the Colorado and Kansas border there. So that snows are going to pick up in intensity across the Dakotas, and you're seeing that squall line begin to develop as we go into the early morning hours on Monday, stretching from Oklahoma down toward Texas, and that line will move off toward the east. And then we get that daytime heating with that low right there, and you see the snows with a wraparound moisture there on the 25th. We're going to see that squall line through there, and that'll have to be watched closely throughout the afternoon. So we're talking about areas from Missouri down to extreme eastern Texas and into Louisiana. That'll be my target zone there for potential for severe weather, isolated tornadoes, definitely large hail possibility there. Look at the heavy snows up there toward the Dakotas on the backside of that low pressure system as that squall begins to push off toward the east. This is about 7 o'clock here on your Monday, and that'll go into the overnight hours, pressing into Mississippi. So a very strong squall line there that'll continue through into the early morning hours on Tuesday. Now, we still could see some severe weather going into Alabama as we go into Tuesday morning, but as we go throughout the day, I think it starts to lose a little bit of its punch. It looks like it'll be confined into southern Alabama, down and along the Florida Panhandle there for severe weather, and just some thunderstorms there. I think it weakens throughout the day on Tuesday. Maybe a marginal risk to maybe slight risk there by that time we get to that point, and then it kind of loses its punch. It kind of gets hung up there a little bit for a day or two as we wait for another little weak system there. You see the rains there across portions of Arkansas that are kind of sliding behind the system, bringing in some weak showers in on Thursday across the southeast, and then we'll watch another little system dive down to the south. Those are those two little weak ones I pointed out earlier, and that's the other one that'll come down as we go into late in the day on your Friday as we go into Easter weekend. So again, the most vigorous system is going to be that one that we're going to watch into next week from a Monday and wrapping up late in the day on Tuesday, and that will be the main concern for severe weather. So obviously we don't want to forget about our winter component for this storm system. We're looking at the European, but I also want to pull up the GFS because, oh boy, if the GFS is right, some areas may get more snow in the next 10 days than they've seen all winter across the northern portion of the United States. You'll see what I'm talking about here in a second. So let's talk about the initial snow that's going to be coming in here, that weak system that'll be kind of moving in across the Dakotas as we go throughout the day on Thursday. You see it there kind of diving down into Minnesota as we go through the overnight hours on Friday. Then there's like a little band there, some bright banding there of some snows from Iowa into Wisconsin throughout the day on Friday. You need to watch that closely because if it's a little bit further south, that could have some hamper for travelers into Chicago on that day. It's very, very close there. Definitely Milwaukee in that little thin band. So any deviation there could be significant there. Maybe we're upwards of 6 inches. Not bad right there. And we'll see that snow kind of continue going into New England as we go on overnight Friday and into Saturday. Significant snows there showing up across areas of Maine over to New Hampshire and Vermont, as well as portions of upstate New York. But the heavy snow amounts there across areas of Maine for sure. Then we turn our attention back off toward the west as we watch that storm system. You see in the snows across the Sierra Nevada of California, and we start to pick up that activity. First of all, across Montana and the Dakotas once again, where they've gotten that earlier snow. And then we'll watch that low develop and the snow really pick up throughout the day on Monday across areas of Dakota, especially South Dakota, going into areas of Minnesota. Again, maybe upwards of over 2 feet. That's what that light purple there in the middle, that dark is all about. That's what that's reflecting there. And that kind of pushes all up into Canada there, but a significant amount of snow. I mentioned this before that when it comes to snow this time of year, because the temperatures tend to be closer to freezing, your water content is a lot higher and they can hold a lot more water equivalent there and dump a tremendous amount of snow. So looking very snowy here as we wrap up the month of March. Now, I promise you I wanted to go ahead and take a look at the GFS. The American model tends to overdo it, but for fun, let's go ahead and just take a look at the American GFS model as well, covering the same time period here once again. We'll quickly go through this. As you see, the snow is kind of coming in over that same path across from Montana, going over toward areas of Minnesota. And you notice it's showing the bright banding too, but just a little bit further north than what the European was showing there, as the snows will continue to move into areas of Maine, and that's also showing the heavy snows there. So we're in pretty fairly good agreement there with that weaker system going into this upcoming weekend and Saturday. Then we'll watch the evolution of the next storm system, and you notice the snow is kind of piling up there across the portions of the Dakotas and into Minnesota. And as that low gets cranking, we get some wraparound snow there coming through portions of Kansas and into Nebraska, and it really picks up there in intensity there with that system. You're seeing that kind of picking up there as we go through the next 10 days. So I won't take this all the way out to the 10-day comparison here, but it's bringing another system there. Look at those snow totals really going up bonkers right through there. We're talking upwards of 2 feet potential there across portions of Minnesota and parts of South Dakota. And beyond the 10-day, it's even bringing even more snow on top of that in that same area. So this is taking it straight out into the first week of April. I went and took it all the way out, and just look how much snow, and we're talking heavy snow from basically from the Northeast all the way to the West Coast. A very snowy pattern. Hard to believe we're heading into the first portion of spring, and we're going to see probably our snowiest weather we've seen all winter. I know today is supposed to be the first full day of spring, but after looking at what we're seeing here for the next 10 days or so, still looking very winter-like. Of course, all attention will be on that next major storm system for that round of severe weather for next week. So I will continue to monitor and continue to have some updates for you there. I've also done a complete revamp of my severe weather coverage. I am cocked and locked and ready to go. So if you'd like to get updates on that, not to mention my updates, but also want to watch my live severe weather coverage beginning on Monday, all you got to do is hit that thumbs up, hit the subscription button, get that notification tab so you're alerted on future content. And if you have any feedback or comments on what you just saw and any suggestions, I am definitely open to that. Please leave a comment down below. All right, that will do it for this edition. Again, thank you. I'm your personal weatherman here to serve you guys, and I look forward to continue to do it here in 2024. That's it for now. We'll see you on the next report. You guys take it easy. Bye-bye for now.